corruption in hospitals is because our systems in the SHA, the digital system, is now able to detect the fraud that people have carried out for many years under NHIF. Why do we have 30 billion shillings deni ya NHIF leo? Na tukisema wacha tufanye verification ya hiyo debt ya 30 billion, mahospitali wanaenda kotini wanasema they don't want verification kwa sababu wanajua ndani pale iko wizi. And we are not going to pay until we verify, because we are not going to spend public money to pay corrupt people. Ama namna gani jameni? So we are telling the people who think the theft they were carrying out in NHIF watalete kwa SHA, nyinyi mnaota ndoto ya mchana. Haiwezekani. Hospitali yeyote, hospitali ya serikali, hospitali ya kibinafsi, hospitali ya kanisa, kama wameiba pesa ya NHIF, watalipa hiyo pesa. Kama wamelete corruption kwa mambo ya SHA, watalipa hiyo pesa na tutawapeleka kotini, kwa sababu we must be accountable for all the resources that the public have put at our disposal as government. Maneno ya e-procurement, kuna watu wengi wamezoea kandarasi ya ukora. Kitu ya shilingi 2 tunanunua shilingi 10 kama serikali, kwa sababu ya procurement ya ukora hapo, ya quotation na nini na nini. Tumesema tunaweka e-procurement. Wacha ijulikane imenunuliwa pesa ngapi na imeuziwa serikali na nani. Na mbona mtu wa shilingi 2 hakupata hiyo kandarasi, mtu wa shilingi 10 alipata. That is what we want to do. Mimi najua kuna resistance. Procurement officers, accounting officers hawataki hiyo maneno kwa sababu wanataka kuendelea na ukora ya zamani. Alafu ndio wanaandika headline, sijui Mbadi, sijui 5 billion, sijui nini. Nyinyi na ukora yenu na maheadline yenu na ufisadi yenu hamuwezi kutuzuia kuhakikisha ya kwamba pesa ya serikali inatumika inavyo.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has thrown his weight behind the Social Health Authority scheme and the government's push to electronic procurement, terming them effective tools in curbing corruption. Speaking on Sunday at the St. Peter's Cathedral Church, where he accompanied the head of state, Mbadi said that the e-procurement system is the way to go.
Tumeona ya kwamba nchi yetu imevamiwa.
When I was asked what my opinion about SHA is, especially the systems, as the person responsible for financial systems in this country, I said that I'm very excited of the revelations that I'm seeing. People who don't have information and details about what Oluga is doing with the Duale in that ministry are the ones who are talking out there. Just by us doing an assessment in 6 counties, Your Excellency, out of 47, there are revelations that for years, hostels in this country, some hostels in this country have been taking money from Kenyans, and yet Kenyans are languishing and suffering without treatment. They have been stealing public funds. And when they are caught, they sponsor stories, negative ones, against the very people who are trying to clean up the mess that has been happening in the health sector. Dr. Luga, soldier on and clean the mess that is in the Ministry of Health. Don't be distracted. I am also not getting distracted to implement e-procurement. EGP is the way to cut on wastages in the government. My plea to the accounting officers, don't listen to your procurement officers because they don't want to let go where they have been stealing public funds. Make sure that you move around and ask your procurement officer to work with the National Treasury to implement this system. This system is going to save us a lot. My team at the National Treasury did not have a weekend. They are making sure that by next week, all state departments all county governments are ready to do procurement through e-procurement platform. And I will tell you, some people are making noise that the system is not working. But they don't even know how that system works. How can you say it is not working and you don't even know how it works? Only 13 counties have been cleared by a controller of budget. So your counties cannot procure because you have not cleared with the controller of the budget. The ones that have cleared with controller of budget, by next week you should be ready to start procurement. So let us embrace this system. We are not bringing a system that is going to inconvenience you. Any new system must have challenges, but we walk as we move ahead.
Now, the DCP party leader and former deputy president has raised alarm over the reported invasion of Mandera County by Jubaland forces, accusing the government of failing to act swiftly on the matter. Speaking at a church service in Kajiado County, Gachagua expressed outrage at what he termed as the commander-in-chief's silence in the face of a serious national security threat. He cautioned that the continued inaction by the government could ignite a major crisis in the region. The former DP, Rigathi Gachagua, emphasized that the protection of Kenya's sovereignty and territorial integrity must remain a top priority, warning that any delay in response could jeopardize both regional stability and public trust in the government's ability to safeguard the nation.
Tumeona ya kwamba nchi yetu imevamiwa by troops from foreign countries. Pale Mandera, maaskari ya Jubaland wameingia Mandera. They have occupied more than half of the town. Waliua watu 5. 7 people have been injured, and many people have been displaced, including schools. The leadership of Mandera was there over last weekend. Instead of castigating the invasion of Kenya by foreign forces, they were castigating Rigiji. Juzi nimeita TV nikasema askari wako pale ya nchi jirani. Sasa ndio nimeona governor wa Mandera ameamuka analia ati asaidiwe. Yet last weekend and over there he was not speaking. The senator was not speaking. The MP was not speaking. Mimi nimechukua jukumu kutetea watu ya Mandera, kutetea watu ya northeastern Kenya. It is unacceptable that foreign forces can invade Kenya. And the mandate of the Kenya Defense Forces is to protect our territorial integrity. And it cannot be that foreign forces are in our land and the government is quiet, the commander-in-chief is quiet. We are asking the commander-in-chief of the Kenya Defense Forces to immediately order an operation to flush out foreign troops out of our land. This is our country. We have a responsibility to protect our territorial integrity, and it cannot be that forces from Somalia can come into Kenya and occupy our land and terrorize our people. Yet the government is quiet and the leaders of Mandera are quiet. So tuambie watu ya Mandera, hata viongozi wenu wakinyamaza, sisi tutatetea nyinyi, kwa sababu hatuwezi kubali muangaishwe na magaidi kutoka nchi jirani.
ODM Secretary General and Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna has sharply criticized the government's use of bottom-up and hustler slogans, labeling the current administration as a one-term regime ahead of the 2027 polls. Speaking at a public event, Sifuna argued that the government is overly focused on constructing markets while neglecting the welfare and empowerment of ordinary citizens. He further reflected on President William Ruto's handling of the recent anti-government protests, noting the controversy surrounding the alleged shooting in the leg incidents. Sifuna emphasized that Kenyans need a government that prioritizes the protection and development of its people rather than political slogans.
Tuwaambia tukishinda uchaguzi tutawapiga tao 6 kila mwezi. Mnakumbuka hiyo story? Mnakumbuka hiyo story? Baba akawaambia tukishinda uchaguzi kama wanaazimio, kusoma itakuwa bure kuanzia primary kwenda secondary kwenda university. Mnakumbuka hiyo story? Akatuambia baba akishinda uchaguzi matibabu itakuwa bure. Ile upande ingine Ruto hakuna kitu alikuwa anaeleza. Alikuwa anaenda akiimba tu hustler, 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 bottom up. Ukimuuliza na hii kitu inamaanisha nini, hakuambii na hana time na wewe. Leo wanasema Waswahili, mkuki kwa nguruwe, kwa binadamu ni mchungu. Leo tunataka tumwambie Ruto 2027 hatuelezani mambo ya sera. Hata sisi vile wewe ulikuja ukisema hasla, sisi tunakuja tukiimba tu one term. One term. One term. Wacha kutuambia tueleze one term inamaanisha nini. Hata mtoto mdogo anajua one term inamaanisha nini, si ndio? Inamaanisha maliza uende. Maliza uende. So kama unataka tukupatie details mingi, tutakupatia wakati tutakuwa State House. Tukifika hapo tutakuchorea tukuambie vile tunataka kufanya. Lakini kwa saa hii vile uliingia na slogan, tutakutoa na slogan. Hakuna mambo mingi. Na nataka niwaambie hawa viongozi ambao wamekaa hapa, hawa Kenya wakati wamepitisha katiba 2010, ukiangalia katiba ya Kenya tayari iko na manifesto ya ile serikali ambayo walikuwa wanataka. Mtu asikutishe hapa ati anatuuliza nyinyi mtajenga soko ngapi? Nani alikuambia tunataka soko? Sisi tunataka kuishi bwana. Hiyo soko unajengea maiti. Unapiga watu risasi mguu, alafu ajivuruta aingie kwa hiyo 12 law ya hii affordable housing unajenga hapa. Anajivuruta hivi. Hiyo ndio kazi ya kutujengea nyumba. Ukiuliza mama ya wale vijana ambao walipigwa risasi wakakufa, uulize mama ya huyo mtoto, wewe unataka tukurudishie kijana yako ama tutengeneze barabara hapa Funyula? Huyo mama atasema nini? Kati ya uhai ya mtoto na barabara, gani muhimu? Si bora uhai. Mama wezi zaa mtoto umsomeshe, anaenda university ati apigwe risasi huko na mtu mwingine ambaye hajui huyo mtoto alitoka wapi. Kwa hivyo 2027 serikali ambaye tunataka ni ile ambaye iko ndani ya katiba. Serikali ambaye imejengwa juu ya misingi ya maadili 6 muhimu. Maadili ya kwanza ni kuheshimu haki za binadamu. Human rights number 1. Number 2, serikali ambaye itaongoza kulingana na demokrasia. Number 3, serikali ambaye itaheshimu uhuru wa wananchi wa kusema, wa kukusanyika jinsi ambavyo tumekusanyika na kukosoa viongozi.
All right, let's take a look at the newspapers in brief before we can have an in-depth conversation with our guests this morning. We'll begin with the Daily Nation that speaks of ghost paradise, corruption, audit reports routinely expose shady schemes to loot public funds. Now, the admission by authorities that rogue hospitals tried to steal 10 billion shillings from the Social Health Authority has revived past scandals involving fraudulent payments for ghost government workers, schools, and health facilities. Now, we are having a crisis in the country, if you may call it, of bogus employees, of fictitious schools, of phony learners, of fake hospitals who are all receiving money from the government. And whose money is that? The taxpayers' money. So that is something we'll be talking about. As always, this new push by government for e-procurement, does it solve this problem? And, you know, really, what's the way forward? And has the government, or at least the Kenya Kwanza government, managed to deal with corruption as it had promised? Now, crisis over county tenders and new jobs. Governors have convened an emergency meeting today to address the stalemate over hiring of 7,000 medics and the Treasury's electronic procurement system, which has stalled county budgets. That is also a conversation we'll be having this morning. So that is the headline on the Daily Nation. If you look at really just the events of what has been happening in the country, a follow-up as well as of the weekend actions by the President and the Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi, which pushes the governor to have a crisis meeting today. Now, also on the Daily Nation, on page 7, inside Matiang'i's roadmap to 2027 election contest, critics have branded him as Uhuru Project, a dangerous tag in Kenya's anti-establishment politics. Now, remember, the last time somebody was called Uhuru's project was in 2022, and that project failed. desperately. So after months of keeping a low profile, the once powerful minister in Uhuru cabinet has resurfaced with a fiery rhetoric now. What does he need to do to be able to convince Kenyans ahead of 2027 that he's the right man for the job? And how can he lose this tag that has been branded on him? So that is some of the stories on the newspapers this morning concerning just what is happening across the country. But of course, we'll be having an in-depth conversation around this in just a few minutes. Now to the Standard newspaper, unmoved by outcry, costly friendship. Now, these three men on top of the page that you see is Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, Health CS Eden Duale, as well as Davis Chirchir. Now, they have survived scandals that would have ruined lesser men, from the looting of billions under their watch to questionable oil imports, a high death toll from road accidents, and serious human rights abuses. But Eden Duale, Chirchir, and Kipchumba Murkomen remain untouchable, shielded not by performance, but by their unbreakable bond with President William Ruto. In Ruto's inner circle, survival is not about service, but it is about loyalty, and scandal is merely the cost of doing business. Now, even as we call for the end of corruption in the country, are these the faces of some of the reasons why Kenyans are decrying a lot of questionable deals within government? And, is the president shooting himself on the foot, calling for a procurement system? Yes, but you're having faces of people who have been in questionable deals, or at least have been at the helm of offices that have had questionable, moves and decisions made. We'll also be having a conversation around that. Now, broad-based at one, chronisms or unlocking the country's potential. Now, 1 year since the opposition leader Raila Odinga joined government, opinion is still divided. Was it an easy way to power, or has the union stabilized the country and made the lives of Kenyans better? Quite a good rhetorical question right there. Was this just an easy way to power for Odinga, or has this union actually stabilized the government and the country, and has it made lives better for Kenyans? So broad-based at one, today being the September the 1st, 2025. And so the broad-based government really has been in operation for a year. Opinion is divided. There are those who feel, yes, this was the right way to go. There are those who feel like, no, we should not have gone that route. So that is something that, remains at the center of the country's political landscape ahead of 2027. Now, much more as well. Tribal clashes in Nakuru leave one dead overnight. A curfew imposed. That is as well under the Ministry of the Interior docket. Something that as well has been making headline. Now, more on the story which speaks of untouchables, where Murkomen, Chirchir, Duale sit pretty. As well as Gachagua says, kick out Jubaland Army now. Now, Gachagua has made some aggressive, accusations against President William Ruto concerning just the Sudan, unsettlement that has been witnessed across a period of time, and says, it is being operationalized right here in Kenya at State House, basically accusing his former boss of funding some of these, groups that are trying to turn on the government. So that is a big accusation. And, once such an accusation goes out and asks for evidence, Gachagua says, he's got the evidence and he's not seen the president deny it. So that is something he said at a local interview just sometime last week. So those are some of the headlines this morning that we'll be able to keenly look at as we proceed with our guests. So it's 7:32 a.m. Allow us to take a quick breather. At that point, when we come back, I'll be joined in studio by Nelson Omoyo, who's a political scientist, as well as Moses Kimanzi, a lawyer and a political analyst, for us to just take a look at what is happening really across the country and how does it affect you. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.